Welcome to livingpianos.com. I'm Robert Estrin, and today we have such an interesting show that I think is going to be a game changer for you. Control your thoughts so you can express your emotions in your music. Now, what is this all about? Well, you know what? One of the main freedoms you have, maybe the most essential freedom we all have, is the freedom of our own thoughts. Now, some people try to control their emotions, and I don't recommend that at all. I think you should express your emotions and feel your emotions. You shouldn't control them, but your thoughts is a different subject altogether. Think about this. Is practicing thought control? Absolutely. That's exactly what practicing is in a nutshell. By the way, if you enjoy this video and want to take your piano playing to the next level, go to the description. There are resources there that could be a life changer for you. Okay, so thought control, the freedom of your thoughts. Practicing is a thought process after all. You might think, no, practicing is a matter of developing the strength of your hands. Well, there is physiology involved in practicing. But think about this. Do you ever see young children, particularly on YouTube, you see these little tiny kids, they can't even reach the pedals. They have pedal extenders. They're little tiny, little floppy little fingers, and they're playing Chopin etudes and things. You go, how is this possible? Obviously, their physiology can't be a match for most adults. Yet, these little kids, with the power of their thought, the practicing, being able to figure out how to amass repertoire and play on a high level, is obviously a thought process because they don't have the hands. They're barely going to reach the keys on the bench, right? So there's a whole lot to this about thought being the primary aspect of what practicing essentially is. Think about this for a minute. You ever see those people who can remember vast numbers of numbers or things? For example, there are people who can recite pi to hundreds of decimal points, and you wonder, how can they remember these vast numbers? Well, they do use some techniques, like they'll imagine a large house with many rooms, and in each of the rooms there are chests of drawers, and in the drawers there are different items, and all the items represent different numbers. So they might go into a room at the end of the hall. In the third drawer, there's a pair of green shoes, and that's a certain number. And the green shoes, then there's socks that go with those shoes, and those are in another place, and the socks have another number. And they kind of build a whole memory, and everything connects to everything else. So there's a sequence to the memories, and that's how they're able to put together, which seems mind-boggling. But it's exactly the same process in learning a piece of music. It's like a story, for example. If you've ever had an experience and then you tell a long story with lots of details and you think how many details you're remembering. And the reason why it's easy to remember is everything leads to everything else. Well, great musical compositions also have a logic of how the music unfolds. So everything leads to everything else. That's why, for example, as a kid, I learned how to memorize from my father, Robert Estrin, who's such a great teacher. He taught me my first lessons. He taught so many people how to learn music. Yet in school, things like social studies, which was non-sequential, dates, generals, battles, and all that stuff, I was lost because things were not sequential. But piece of music, I could just learn how to piece it together, and one note led to another, and no problem. So this is how thought control works in your practicing. There's a whole other side to this. So the other side is performing is also a version of thought control. I remember in the Olympics, Sasha Cohen, after a brilliant performance, said, "It went exactly as I thought it would." What a statement to make. You see, that's a form of visualization. So in performing, you must also have a certain amount of control over your thoughts. And the way to do this is not by trying to block out the audience. Imagine you're in your practice room or practicing at home and just imagine you're just doing it and try to ignore the audience. No, the opposite. Instead, When you're at home, when you have the piece in good shape, you imagine the audience there. You imagine being in that place and that agitation, that heightened sense you get. Take deep breaths and live it and imagine it in your practice. You're practicing performing. And this is a version of thought control. So when you get to the actual performance, it's not like, woo, whoa, there's an audience here, and you're shocked by it and it throws you off. Instead, you're in a familiar spot because you thought it through in a relaxed state in your own home, imagining it. So when you're there, you're comfortable. You've been looking forward to it. This is another version of thought control. There are so many different versions. Think about this. There are people, for example, who do meditation, which is a whole other type of thought control, blocking out the internal dialogue to have pure thought and a relaxed state. It takes a lot to have that kind of thought control, and it could be incredibly relaxing to just take everything out of your thoughts. That's a form of thought control in itself, isn't it? I know that when I go to the dentist, for example, and I'm sitting in that chair, I will not be thinking about the dentist. Instead, I take myself back to California, where we lived for so many years, and we had good friends in Laguna Beach, and I used to go there all the time and walk on the beach, and I put myself, and that's my thoughts. I'm smelling the air, hearing the waves, and walking on the beach, and while they're drilling away, my thoughts are somewhere else. Because once again, your thoughts are the only true freedom you have in your life. And if you can control your thoughts, you can express your emotions in your music. If you want to learn more about this and other aspects of developing your piano playing, go to the description and there's great resources for you there. I'm Robert Estrin. This is livingpianist.com, your online piano resource. Thanks, all you subscribers. We'll see you next time.